Pregnancy is often painted as a season of joy, but for Sam, the reality was a storm of relentless morning sickness that tested her strength day after day. With her devoted husband, Officer Lee, and her caring sister by her side, love became her greatest medicine, even when remedies failed. Through tears, laughter, and sleepless nights, they held on to hope. Yet worry for the baby's safety drove Lee to seek answers from a doctor, and the sound of a strong heartbeat changed everything. Subscribe now and follow this emotional journey of love, sacrifice, and the miracle of new life. The first months of Sam's pregnancy were supposed to be filled with joy, laughter, and the gentle anticipation of new life. Yet reality struck her in a much harsher way. Morning sickness came crashing into her days like an uninvited storm. It wasn't just the occasional nausea that so many mothers-to-be described. It was relentless, weighing her down from the moment she opened her eyes until the late hours of the night. Food lost all its taste. Familiar scents turned unbearable, and even a simple sip of water sometimes felt impossible. What should have been her happiest season quickly became a daily struggle against her own body. Lee, her devoted husband and a police officer who was used to facing danger without flinching, found himself powerless in the face of this quiet battle. Each morning before work, he prepared trays of fresh fruit, ginger tea, or whatever remedy he had researched the night before, hoping it might bring his wife some relief. He scoured online forums, consulted colleagues who were fathers, and even called older relatives for advice, desperately searching for the smallest solution. His uniformed days on the street had taught him patience and persistence, but watching Sam wince with exhaustion and fight tears was a trial of its own kind, one that broke his heart in silence. Sam's older sister, sensing her pain, visited as often as she could. She cooked bowls of light porridge, offered warm compresses, and gently massaged Sam's shoulders, whispering comforting words only a sister could say. Together, she and Lee created a circle of care around Sam, a shield of love against the storm. And yet, despite their combined efforts, the sickness remained. Remedies failed, tricks that worked for others brought no relief, and every failed attempt carried with it a sting of helplessness. Still, hidden within the exhaustion was a quiet, unspoken joy. Each wave of nausea reminded Sam that a tiny life was growing inside her. Each sleepless night and every untouched meal became proof of a miracle that was slowly taking shape. Though her body faltered, her heart carried a glow she couldn't ignore. And every time she caught Lee watching her with eyes full of concern, or felt her sister's reassuring touch on her hand, she knew she wasn't fighting alone. The road was hard, but it was paved with love, a love strong enough to carry her through the storm. There were days when Sam felt her strength slipping away entirely. The sickness would overwhelm her so suddenly that she had to clutch the edge of the bed just to steady herself. At times, tears escaped without warning, rolling down her pale cheeks, not only from the physical discomfort, but also from the frustration of feeling powerless in her own skin. She had always been a woman full of energy, one who loved to cook, laugh, and fill the house with warmth. Now, even the thought of stepping into the kitchen exhausted her. The contrast was crushing, and for a moment she feared she was losing herself. But in those fragile hours, Lee became her anchor. He never allowed despair to settle too long in the room. He would kneel beside her, gently brushing strands of damp hair away from her forehead, and whisper, "You're not alone, Sam. I'm here, always." His words weren't grand speeches, they were quiet promises, but each one sunk deeply into her heart. There were nights when he returned home from long shifts at the station, his body tired and uniform wrinkled, yet the first thing he did was check on her. Sometimes he simply sat on the floor by the bed, holding her hand until she drifted into an uneasy sleep. The sight of his patience, his refusal to give in to worry, slowly replaced her tears with gratitude. Her sister, too, continued to stand by her side with unwavering loyalty. She became Sam's second guardian, often laughing lightly to lift the heavy air in the house. She teased Lee about his clumsy attempts in the kitchen, turning even failed experiments into moments of joy. Together, the two of them created a cocoon of love and security that wrapped around Sam whenever the sickness threatened to break her spirit. And in the midst of all the struggle, Sam began to notice something unexpected. Happiness still bloomed in small, delicate ways. Each morning, she awoke to find Lee had left a handwritten note on the nightstand, sometimes a silly doodle, sometimes a short line of encouragement. Each evening, her sister brought fresh flowers from the market, placing them by the window so the house would not feel so gloomy. These gestures, tender yet constant, reminded her that even suffering could be softened by love. Though her body remained fragile, her heart grew stronger. She realized that every trial, every ache, was not a punishment, but part of the journey to welcoming new life. And while the sickness persisted, it could not overshadow the powerful bond forming around her, a bond woven from devotion, sacrifice, and the unshakable promise of family. Despite the love that surrounded her, Lee could not silence the gnawing worry in his heart. Every time Sam winced or pressed her hand against her stomach, a shadow of fear crept across his thoughts. He was a man trained to deal with crime, danger, and uncertainty, but nothing compared to the vulnerability he felt now. The stakes were higher than any mission. This was about the life of his wife and the tiny miracle growing inside her. Finally, unable to bear the endless guessing, he decided it was time to seek certainty. One morning, he gently took Sam's hand and said, "We're going to the doctor today. I need to know you're both safe." She hesitated, nervous about what they might hear, but the firmness in his voice gave her courage. The ride to the hospital was quiet, filled with unspoken fears. Sam leaned her head against the car window, her mind tangled with questions. Was the baby truly okay? Had her sickness hurt the child? Meanwhile, Lee's hands tightened on the steering wheel, his jaw clenched as he silently prayed. The strong, steady officer felt small in that moment, his only wish being for a doctor's reassurance. When they arrived, he helped Sam inside, guiding her every step as if the world itself might harm her. In the sterile examination room, the seconds stretched into an eternity. Sam lay on the bed, her pulse racing, while Lee stood close by, unwilling to let go of her fingers. The doctor performed the checkup with calm precision, scanning the tiny life hidden within. The silence was unbearable, until suddenly, the steady sound of a heartbeat filled the room. A strong, rhythmic thump-thump echoed through the speakers, and both Sam and Lee froze. Relief washed over them in waves, and before they knew it, tears streamed down their faces. The doctor smiled warmly and said, "Your baby is perfectly healthy. There is nothing to fear." At that moment, every hardship seemed to dissolve. The nausea, the sleepless nights, the countless failed remedies, all of it paled in comparison to the sound of that heartbeat. Sam squeezed Lee's hand, her eyes shining with renewed strength, while he bent down and kissed her forehead, whispering words he could barely say through tears. "We're going to be okay, both of you." Walking out of the hospital together, they felt lighter, as though a heavy burden had been lifted. The road ahead would still hold challenges, but the assurance of their child's safety gave them courage. Hand in hand, hearts united, they knew they were ready to embrace whatever came next, with love as their greatest shield.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh Ní Tử Sam Review. Rất vui vì ngày hôm nay lại được gặp lại các bạn trong tập phim ngày hôm nay. Trong tập phim ngày hôm nay thì Sam đã bị ốm nghén rất là nặng nề. Vì vậy cảnh sát Lee và chị gái của cảnh sát Lee rất là lo lắng cho sức khỏe của Sam cũng như em bé trong bụng Sam, nên đã quyết định đưa Sam đi thăm khám gặp bác sĩ liệu rằng em bé trong bụng Sam có ổn hay không, sức khỏe của Sam có ổn hay không. Tất cả sẽ được hé lộ vào các tập tiếp theo, sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày vào lúc 7 giờ sáng giờ Việt Nam trên kênh Ní Tử Sam Review. Nếu các bạn thấy tập phim ngày hôm nay hay thì hãy cho mình xin một nút like, một nút chia sẻ và để lại bình luận ở dưới video nhé. Cảm ơn các bạn rất nhiều. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại các bạn vào ngày mai. Bye bye.